I'm really excited about this discussion we're about to have with three very knowledgeable and very prominent people in the industry. The topic of today's panel is ESG. What is it and what are fund groups doing?
It's a sort of a fallacy to think that ESG is a separate thing that you do to measure its returns. I'd argue any manager who has a fantastic 10-year track record is applying ESG, whether they know it or not. She does not think about it necessarily, but actually she is thinking about these things and integrating it. The difference is that now we're becoming conscious about integrating and thinking about them. And so I would end it by saying integrating it plus stewardship, that's important, actually does improve your performance over the long term.
We also recognise as an industry, we are being pushed. We're being pushed by the regulator to disclose more. I think a very, very important aspect is being genuine. Clearly, everyone here has very much been involved in the sector for a long time. But there is genuine sort of concerns around issues of greenwashing and the like. And so I think this kind of genuine factor is really, really important, that you can illustrate that, you can demonstrate that. I think those are aspects which we as an industry are probably improving all the time.
One thing that I'm definitely seeing more of is rather than an objective being purely just sustainable and general in nature, I'm starting to see more clients looking to want to actually tailor that objective more directly to them. So what are their values? What do they want to actually express through the underlying holdings within their funds? So I think this is a new area and a very, very exciting area where we start to perhaps become more bespoke with the objectives which are more relevant to that individual investor rather than it just being everybody's sustainability objective.
Focus around greater transparency, great from companies, very importantly in terms of the types of data feeds that we're getting, is how you take that data and how you analyze it. That's probably the next step in terms of understanding ESG data. What's the long-term impact in terms of the cost of capital for firms or the ability to finance and those types of issues. And that's where I think a very interesting next phase we will go through as an industry as we get better and better quality data from companies around these types of issues.
Be clear about the differentiation between ESG, which is, I repeat, is simply the only way that you can invest to make money in the long term. I can't see how else you can do it. And between ethical funds, which now we call thematic funds. So if you have an impact fund, and again, we've been involved with the Council of Impact from the beginning, this is investors wanting to use their money not just for returns, but for a particular purpose.
But the one thing that I would say with all of this, though, is imperfection is definitely better than inaction at the moment. Nothing is necessarily perfect. Even us as asset managers, believe it or not, we're not perfect. But open that dialogue with us, ask us and push us on the transparency, because this is going to build your knowledge. It's going to help us to be able to also build products and reporting, which is going to help you in the long term.
If the advisors push the fund managers, they will find that there are common threads, whether they're speaking to Charlie or speaking to Sarah or one of my people, there are common threads. You can then compare, and then you can decide how to go forward, because you can clearly see how it's articulated, and then ask for it to be evidenced. In the same way that if somebody says to you, I'm a great global fund manager, you say, okay, so evidence it. Show me how much your return is adjusted for risk after fees. I mean, that's evidence, right? I'm a great integrated ESG. Oh, really? Evidence it. Well, has it had value? Has it attracted value? How would your portfolio look at without it? I integrate stewardship, that adds value. Okay, evidence it.
Advisors need to know what they're buying for their underlying clients. And I think the terminology is the confusing point. The sooner that's kind of sorted out for the industry, the better, because I think that helps to provide them, to the underlying client, the transparency of what they're getting and what that fund is about, what its objectives are about, and what its purpose is about. And for me, that's a really important aspect.
Most importantly is, does this product hit your financial objective well? Your financial objective and your ESG objective shouldn't be mutually exclusive. These two should be able to be delivered as one. So that's a really important aspect as well.